Okay, it started recording. Yeah, the stage is yours, Bohlale.
Okay. Okay, perfect, perfect. So guys, I've prepared a couple of slides, and how I'm going to go about it is really just sharing the top 5 tips that I think are important for you guys to prepare for your interview. And then after that, I'll share some tips around what the differences are with virtual interviewing, as most of you have already alluded to during these unprecedented times. Very important for us to understand what's important for us from a virtual perspective, especially when you're interviewing. And then I'll wrap up towards the end just with one of the top questions that I always get asked in terms of a question: tell me about yourself. And so I'll give you guys some tips as to how to go about doing that. Okay. So first thing that I wanted to go through, and I'm cognizant that I've only have 15 minutes, so I just want to put my timer on so that I stay on track. 15 minutes, there we go. Okay, cool. It's for you guys to always be aware of when you are invited for an interview, right? The first one is you must always prepare for your interview. When you're invited, obviously, as you guys, you search for jobs, you look for something that maybe is in line with what you want to do. If you get invited, it means that the recruiter has seen something in you or in your application that they like, they see some potential, and that is something that's getting them to want to come and engage with you more, right? So being invited for an interview is the first step in getting into a company, and it's always important for you guys to prepare for that. So it's not something where you kind of just wake up, roll out of bed, and decide to appear. In terms of preparation, the 3 main things that I think you need to be mindful of: firstly, you must research the company, understand the company, what they do, and just understand a little bit more about how your role ties into the company. So understand the job spec, which is the second thing, to go through the job spec. That's what I recommend for you guys. Go through the job spec, understand from the job spec, what are the skills on here that I already have experience in and the skills that I already know how to do? What are the skills that I don't know how to do, right? And so if you identify certain things that you don't know and you don't have experience in, that's absolutely fine. What you need to do in that case is then try and figure out of the skills that I don't already know how to do, how can I use what I've learned from the experience that I already have to do those aspects, right? So a lot of times when so for instance, if I go for an interview and there's certain things that I don't know, I'm very aware of what those things are, but I make sure that from what I do know, I speak to how I can use the skills I already have to do those attributes and those kind of competencies that they're requiring. Very important as well as you are going through your job spec. So firstly, you're identifying what is it that you know how to do, what is it you don't know how to do, but also understanding how are you going to add value. That is a very, very key aspect, okay? So any company that's trying to hire someone, they want to know that I've invited this person, I've seen potential based on their CV. So how is this person going to add value to the company? And that's why it's important for you to understand what the company does and how you fit into the company and the job spec. So very important to understand how am I going to add value? How am I going to stand out? How am I going to differentiate myself from any other applicant for this particular role? So those are the things that you start thinking about in preparation for your interview, right? Also, one very key thing that I haven't added here is please never, ever, ever lie on your application. Because if you see a job that you want to apply for and you realize that there's a lot of skills that you don't have, never state that you have those skills, right? Because if you get asked a question about the skills that you say that you have and you get found out by the recruiter that you don't have those skills, then actually you're worse off than having told the truth from the beginning. And this actually happens, guys. I remember maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I had an interview with someone and they casually kind of said to me, I said, okay, so what do you love to do in your spare time? And she says to me, oh no, I love reading. And I was like, really? You love reading? Okay, yeah, I love reading in my spare time and this and that. And something in me just said, okay, let's interrogate this a bit more. So I kept asking, so what do you read? Okay, what kind of books do you read? She made up a story about what kind of books she read. She said she read something, she loves African novels. I then said, okay, which is the most recent African novel that you read? She gave me some title. And I still wasn't convinced that this person is actually telling me the truth. And so I continued to then say to her, what did you love the most about that book? And it's at that point that she said to me, okay, ma'am, actually, I actually don't read. Yeah, sorry about that. Now that for me is something that is just, and I could tell that she was making up the story, and recruiters are very good at figuring these things out, guys. So if you try and lie during the interview or on your application, if you get found out, the only thing that it tells me is that this person is not trustworthy. You'll come into the corporate space or the job that we're recruiting you for, and if anything happens within your role, and I'm asking you what happened here, you'll probably tell a lie or you'll make up a story. And so no one wants to hire a non-trustworthy person. So please make sure never to lie on your application or the interview. Cool. So that's how you prepare for your interview. And then the day that you're supposed to be going for your interview, please make sure you always arrive early, guys. It's absolutely important. What it does for you personally is that when you arrive early, you're able to calm your nerves, you're able to sit down, you're not huffing and puffing, you're not in a daze because you felt like you were running late. So anytime that you know you have a meeting at 1 o'clock, make sure you've already estimated the time it's going to take to get to the company. Make sure you're giving yourself a buffer of 10 to 15 minutes. What this communicates to the recruiter is that this person is taking this seriously. This person arrived on time, which is great because they are waiting for us and we're not waiting for them. If a recruiter has to wait for you, once again, it's giving off the wrong signals. It's giving the signal that you're someone that doesn't take things seriously, that's not going to take your job seriously. You're going to arrive late even for work when we require you to be in at a particular time. So all of these things talk back to your character. And that's why it's important for you as you're preparing for your interview that you are aware of how these things actually reflect on you as a person, okay? So leave room for delays that may arise by making sure that you arrive early. It allows you to calm yourself as well, and it shows that you're taking this seriously. The third thing that I want to dress professionally, right? So when you go for an interview, don't go as if you've just come off campus, because that doesn't indicate that you are once again taking the process seriously. First impressions are the most important thing when it comes to interviews. The person doesn't know you. All they've read is your CV. They're seeing you for the first time, and the way in which you appear tells them something about yourself. And this is something from a recruiter's aspect. When I go through and interview people and I see either a guy and he's dressed formally, you may not have a full suit, but for the guys, wear dark pants, try and make sure you can borrow a tie from someone, put on a formal shirt. And if that's all you manage to have, then that's great. If wear full suit. Trying to wear that
Bohlale.
Neutral, okay. Make sure that you just make sure. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's a bit of I think a few sentences that we might have not heard. It was, I think, internet instability and stuff, internet connection. It was about from dark pants. Yeah, it was from dark pants and tie, in relation to what guys should wear. So from there we couldn't. Yes. Yeah. So if
okay.
You
okay.
can just
Sorry
refresh
about that.
back from there. No, it's totally fine. Technical issues.
Cool. So guys, once again, like I was saying, if you don't have a full suit, then make sure you're wearing dark pants. Make sure you've got somewhat formal shoes. Don't wear sneakers or slops to an interview. Make sure that if you've got a tie, wear a tie and a formal shirt. And if not that, please, by all means, try and make sure that you are dressed as formally as you possibly can. Please do not arrive at an interview with jacket and t-shirt as if you've just that we are trying to create, right? So your first impression is always one where you want the recruiter, the company that's interviewing you, to take you seriously as a person. So please make sure that your first impression is always one that is positive. For the ladies as well, try as much as possible to wear neutral colors. I mean, you definitely can wear color. I'm not saying that at all, but if you're going to kind of be overly colorful, always remember the environment that you're going into, right? So if you are interviewing in a place that is very corporate and formal, make sure you're dressing appropriately. If you're interviewing at a place that is less formal, more vibey, please still dress for an interview. Rather overdress than be underdressed for an interview, okay? So rather kind of go there dressed, taking it seriously, and then once you integrate it into the company, you can dress as everyone else dresses, okay? So, and also ladies, the long, colorful nails, yeah, try tone it down a bit. These are small things that sometimes can be very distracting to an interviewer. So just make sure that you are looking as clean, neat, hair out of the face kind of impression all the time. So that's the third one. The fourth one, guys, is be yourself. I know a lot of people tend to tell you this, and not everyone knows what that actually means and how to go about being confident. But I think the more prepared you are for an interview, the easier it is for you to feel calm, right? Because any question that they may ask you, you've at least thought through it, you've researched the company, you'll know something, right? So if you haven't prepared for the interview and as they ask questions, it's very easy for you to start fumbling because now you're trying to find answers to something that you don't have. And what that does is that the more you do that, the more doubtful you are of how the interview is going, the more nervous you are about the fact that you're just doing terribly and, oh my goodness, this is going terribly. And then that starts showing throughout the interview once you start feeling overly nervous, overly scared. So the more prepared you are, as in point one, the more confident you'll be. The better dressed you are, the more confident you will be, right? So always prepare, dress well for the interview, arrive on time, but also that's going to help you just be yourself. So be calm as much as you can. I know it's always nerve-wracking to do interviews, but try and be confident in your answers. Always try be yourself. Don't try and anticipate what you think the employer wants and then start selling yourself in that way. Once again, we're going down the path of trying to lie, trying to put up a front of who you think they want. You need to be yourself and you need to trust in who you are. And if they love you for you, then you're in the right space. If they don't like you for who you are, then that's perfectly fine, because you also don't want to be working in a company that just goes against your kind of morals, your values, who you are as a person, okay? So absolutely fine to show some personality, guys. It's absolutely fine to smile or laugh or, like engage with people, even if they are not necessarily smiling and you thought something was funny. It's okay that you laughed at it or smiled at it or whatever the case may be. Don't try and think you have to be overly formal. I personally like it when people show personality because it gives me a better sense of who they are, what type of person they'll be in this kind of environment. So for me, I think absolutely fine that you're showing personality. Once again, never lie or try to be someone that you're not. And finally, this is a question I get from a lot of people just around asking questions. It is important to ask questions because I think it shows that you have an interest in the role. It shows that you have an interest in the company somewhat. And if you absolutely don't have any question, right? Then ask something around, could you let me know what the next steps are? What happens if I am successful for the role? What are the next steps? Challenge for people that are in this role. It says my
Bohlale.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay, we kind of
Yes.
lost you. We kind of lost you from it's totally fine to ask questions from the beginning, from the get-go. So I'm so
Okay.
sorry to ask you to go back again.
No, that's fine. That's fine. This happens all the time as part of our virtual reality at this point. Okay, saying the last one is the one question I always get asked is around, do I have to ask a question? You don't have to. I'd advise you to, right? So as you're doing your research on the company, find something that relates to the company or the role that you want to ask about that they may not have addressed. If they have addressed it already in how they've introduced themselves and the company, then ask them something along the lines of, okay, so what's your personal experience of this place? Even if it's just one question, right? Because what that shows is just a level of curiosity to be part of the company. So those are the top 5 things, guys. Once again, as I said, if it's always good to also just ask what are the next steps. So kind of asking, okay, so from here, if I am successful, what are the next steps to anticipate? Are there any other things that you may want to know about me that I may not have spoken about already? Okay, so those are the top 5 things, and there's so much detail I can go into with each of them. But just for the sake of time, I'm going to move on to the next things and quickly go through them, and then I'll leave some time for Q&A towards the end. So guys, those are the most important things from a virtual perspective. Very important for you, once again, arrive early for your interview. So arrive 10 minutes early, test your connection, make sure you're in a place that is quiet and free from distraction. Don't move around, guys. Those of you that are doing mobile interviews, don't walk around. Find a place where you can sit, where you can maybe prop up your phone, put it up against something, and you can speak, and so you have free kind of range of your hands. But if you have to use your earphones, get steady, make sure you're in a quiet place where you're not distracted, but also if there's people moving up and down behind you, it's distracting for the interviewer. Dress professionally, once again, so the same way that you'd come dressed in an interview, dress that way for a virtual interview as well. Absolutely important. Make sure you look neat, make sure your hair's neat, and make sure you're presentable. I interviewed someone recently that was saying to me, is it fine that I can just roll out of bed and talk to you because it's virtual anyway? And I said, absolutely not okay. It's not a roll out of bed and appear kind of thing. So always make sure you're still dressed professionally, that you look like you've bathed, and focus on the interview. It's very distracting, as you can see on the picture of this presentation. People, you can always see a mini version or video of yourself somewhere. Don't look at that too often, because I find people do that. They're trying to fix their hair, they're pouting, they're checking if they like the lighting, they're doing all sorts of things. So focus on the interview. Focus on the person you're speaking to as you would. Okay. So the big question that I always get asked by a lot of people going for interviews, this tell me about yourself question. People just never know how to tackle it, never know where to start. And there's no one way of doing it, and there's no right answer necessarily, because I think the interviewer is always looking for whatever they're looking for, right? But what they want to get a sense of is a bit more about your personality, because that's nothing that you can see from a CV. So if it's something that you can't see from a CV, you want to engage with the person to see who they are, to see what skills they've built. So it's really an opportunity for you to, once again, show personality, answer why you studied, speak about why you studied the course that you studied, what your career aspirations are with regards to having studied that course. For those of you that already have prior work experience, talk through the kind of experience that you have and the kind of skills and speak about your interests. So speak about you
Bohlale.
enjoy doing just outside of work. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back now. You're still saying
Happy.
something about talk about your interest and yeah, along those lines.
Yes. Absolutely okay to talk about your interests and things that you like doing outside of your studies, but don't spend too much time talking about that. Try and make sure that as you are speaking is for you in the actual interview. So if you know the role is something that you need to be punctual, you need to pay attention to detail, because the role is a dot. Speak about in terms of what you studied, your career aspirations. One of the skills that you pride yourself in is really paying attention to detail because of A, B, C, D, da, 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 right? So every job spec has a set of skills that they look for at the end. Identify what skills talk to you as a person, and in this, and not just talk to you as in you aspire to be that, but things that you know you do well. And then when you're answering this question, throw some of those in, because what that's going to speak to is that the interviewer is going to see that, okay, you have some of the skills that we already require for you to do this kind of role. So there's no one set answer. I do encourage you guys to practice this answer, okay? Try not to go too long. So once you start kind of talking 10, 15 minutes about yourself, a little bit too long, try go to very key specific things that you want to speak about. Keep it short, brief, to the point, and allow the interviewer to then ask you questions, because if you keep something brief, they may note, I want to know more about that, and then it gives them an opportunity to then engage with you further on that particular topic. I hope this was helpful, guys. These are just some of the things that I think you need to take note of when you're answering this question. And thank you very much for the time. I know I've already gone over 15 minutes and I'm sorry, but wishing you guys all the best, and very happy to take some questions at this point.
Thank you so much, Bohlale. Let me just send back my video. Thank you so much.
Can I stop sharing?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Is Cable here? Cable is supposed to take us through the Q&A if anyone has questions. And then the Google form questions. I'm just gonna take us through those questions because I don't see Cable here. Cable, are you here? If you're here, please unmute yourself. And 2 people have already raised their hands. Cable, are you here? Okay, Zetimbi, so I see you. And Nosipo. Thank you very much again, Bohlale. It was, I gained a lot of information from this. I'm not sure about the person who said to you they just want to roll on bed and they did talk to you whilst still an interview. The courage, the lever.
The courage to ask that. Yeah, I was just like,
it's insane.
No.
Yeah, okay. So Tembi, so you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Okay. Hello, Ms. Bohlale.
Hey, Tembi. So
I wanted to ask about the tell me about yourself part.
Yes.
How do you go about on the weaknesses part? You can't just say I'm not a punctual person, because that puts you on a side where you're not going to be picked for the recruitment or whatever it is that you are going for the interview for. So how do you go about when you tell them about your weaknesses?
So when you speak about your weaknesses, right, very important for you. So if you're not a punctual person, they may have already seen that if you've arrived late. So you wouldn't need to tell them that. They'll see that, okay, this person is not punctual, but hopefully you've arrived on time. But if you do struggle with punctuality, that's something that you say, anytime you're answering weaknesses, you almost say, so I do struggle with being punctual because of A, B, C, D, but it is something I'm working on, and this is how I'm working on it, right? So for any weakness that you want to share, make sure that you also sharing how you are working on that weakness and what it is you've put in place to do so. So never kind of just share, oh, I'm not punctual, and then just leave it there. I'm not punctual, but But of late, this is what I've done. I've got a timer set for arriving early, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so
Right.
solutions
Thank
to
you.
the week.
Great. Nosipho?
Okay, hi guys. Thank you, Bohlale, for a very informative session. I just have two questions. The first one pertains to dress code. I've attended a workshop some years ago about colors when you are dressing up for an interview. Are there specific colors that are not recommended to wear because they give off a certain type of energy? So for example, I remember the facilitator of that session saying that it's not very safe to wear the color red when you're going to an interview because it gives off a very authoritative personality that could intimidate the interview panel. And then my second question is based on asking questions to the interview panel. I think there's that pause or that fear when we want to ask about salaries. So is it safe for me to inquire about how much I'm going to be paid, or to negotiate a salary, or to ask any questions pertaining to that when I have the opportunity to ask the panel about any further information?
So let me start with that one, Nosipho. Thank you so much for the question. Absolutely don't ask about salary. All right. It's a little bit off-putting because firstly, you don't know at the end of that interview whether you've done well enough to be asking about that question. And also, if you haven't done well, that's not something that an interviewer wants to be engaging on with you because you're not someone that they're considering going forward. So when it's time to ask questions, I'd always recommend you not to ask about salary at all. When it's time to speak about salary, they will engage with you. So they will ask you, what is your expected salary? At that point, you're more than welcome to then start engaging on salary, but not that being a question coming from you to them. So yeah, to answer that question. In terms of colors, there aren't, I mean, I completely hear what the thinking around not wearing red, but there's different ways in which you can wear it, right? So if you are wearing red head to toe, maybe not. But if you've got a red dress and you've got a black jacket over it to just break the color a little bit, or if you've got red through a gray dress or a black dress and you've got a red jacket, absolutely fine. So it's about how you put it together. Try and always stick to, so when I say neutral colors, I mean kind of navy blues, black, white, grays, beige. Those are kind of the neutral colors that are very safe to go, and make sure that the main item that you're wearing represents that color. And then you can accessorize with whatever colors you like. But just make sure that, yeah, majority of what you're wearing is more neutral than it is overly colorful. Some people I've seen arrive at interviews in a summer dress, right? And you know how summer dresses are. They are bright, they've got lots of flowers, they've got lots of decor, and it's not the place to be wearing summer dresses. But if you do have a summer dress, hopefully you've got a jacket on to just try and make it feel a bit more formal or professional. I hope that answered your question, Nosipho.
Yes, I'm answered. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Right. Okay.
Hi,
Before
I've got a question.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Hi, Ms. Bohlale. I've got a question regarding yes. I've got a question in regards to interviews. Let's say interviews, right? When one goes for an interview, let's say one is not able to entirely present themselves, but their CV says something more about them. Do you as interviewers consider them, or do you put them aside? And then you again as a recruiter, do you give feedback to the interviewees after their interviews, perhaps if they weren't successful in
it? So your first question around not being able to present yourself, but your CV does. I don't understand. So if I'm reading from your CV and you're able to maybe present yourself better in a written manner than in a personal manner, it's still important for you to be able to, because remember, when we hire you, we're not going to be working with your CV, we're working with you. So you need to be able to still present yourself in the same way that you've put on your CV. So if you've put things that are elaborate on your CV and you've spoken about the fact that you've got great interpersonal skills and you're a great communicator, and then you arrive there and you are a lot more reserved and you struggle to communicate your ideas and all of those things, we take into consideration everything. So your CV may be great, but you also need to present well equally in the actual interview. And I hope I've answered your question in the way that I understood it.
Yes,
and from a feedback, okay. And from a feedback perspective, it's not always that you get feedback, and only because if you've been successful, we'll let you know and you'll come back for another interview. But it's not always that you'll get feedback necessarily from a recruiter in terms of why you were not successful. The reason why we don't do that specifically at Bowmans is that we don't necessarily want you to alter who you are, because maybe, like I said in the beginning, sometimes companies are looking for a very particular thing from a person. And if you don't necessarily fit that profile, we don't want to tell you to then alter who you are to better fit that profile. Because if you go to the next interview and you maybe now try to put on a Bowmans profile, that may not work for that company. So it's always good for you to be true to yourself all the time. Know that you've done your absolute best in the actual interview and you left no stone unturned in terms of who you are, and you brought yourself to the interview. So if you leave and you're not taken, sometimes feedback is not necessarily the best thing, but there are instances where feedback is good. And I personally give feedback to people that I feel like there's certain things that if they did better would have helped them present better. But all of them individual feedback is something that is very time consuming from our perspective. And so, yeah, it's not always that you'll get feedback.
Right. Mulindo, were you answered by Bohlale's response? Was it okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Right, cool. We are way behind time, Bohlale, and there's a number of questions. I sent you these over email. Yeah, there's quite a few questions that I just wanted us. I'm just gonna highlight them. Can you see them from your side, from your end?
Yeah.
Okay. So this question is how to best
respond.
Yeah, when the interview panel asks you how much would you like to earn. So you're no longer the person who's asking about the money, but one of the panelists asks you, how much would you like to earn? How do you best respond to that question? Where do you start? Do you start by saying 100,000, or where do you start?
Based on what? Based on what? So it always has to be based on something, right? So the place to start is what you're currently earning if you're already working. All right. So what are you currently earning? What is that next step for you? What is the next jump? And typically around like a 15% increase, 20% increase. It depends on the role. So it depends if this role is going to require a lot more of you in terms of you have to travel further. You're going to need to invest a lot more in maybe buying yourself a car because it's far, petrol, all of those kinds of things. You need to work for yourself. What kind of salary would allow me to almost get all the things that I need to, and in order to enable me to be able to live decently. But what's not going to take me out of the bracket, right? So if you're currently earning 100,000 a year, you can't now go there and say you want 300,000. So depending on what the role is, it's important for you to where you are placed based on the role, and you're almost giving yourself a good 15%, maybe maximum 20% jump off what you are currently earning. But it always depends on the role. So if you are taking a step back, realistic about what you are asking to earn, because you don't want to outprice yourself.
Okay, you know, I totally understand. Right. So here's another question. I've highlighted it again. How does where is it? I saw it was something about I saw somebody in one of the panelists as somebody that I know. Okay, here it is.
Oh yes, I know
somebody
that one.
asked,
So,
yeah.
yes.
I once
If you go into a panel and there's someone that you know, do you ask them to leave? No, absolutely not. It's a professional setting, so you come in, and if you someone that you know, treat them like anyone else, right? So greet the people, hi, good to see you, whatever, and try and maintain your composure. Don't try and act any different because you know someone on the panel. Please never ask someone to leave. It's their company and they've invited you.
Okay. So, last question that I'm going to take is, when is it okay to call and phone about the results of your interview? Lindelo just asked this question. So, like, is there a specific minimum number of days that you could call back and ask them if they've considered you, taking you in as one of their employees, or is there a minimum number of days? Yeah. And how long should you wait?
I think always important to ask the question towards the end of your interview. When can I back? And if they give you, listen, we're still interviewing people for the next 3 weeks, we'll only know at the end of the month, then you give them up until the end of the month, and then maybe after that, give it 2 weeks from the time that they said they'd get back to you. If they haven't, then after 2 weeks, you can start emailing and getting back to them.
All right, thank you very much. If anyone else has questions from the floor or the audience, you could always send me the questions, and I'll forward them to Bohlale, and then she could answer them via email, and then I'll send them back to the people. Bohlale, where can we find you on social media? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Yeah. What are your social handles?
All under my name, right? So Instagram at Bohlale Paile, Facebook also Bohlale Paile, LinkedIn Bohlale Paile. So I don't have any other handles outside of that. So happy for you to engage with me. Mostly LinkedIn, Instagram are the platforms I use the most.
So guys, network. After this session, go connect with Bohlale on LinkedIn. I've already done so. Right, thank you very much, Bohlale, for your time. Thank you so much. You took out a whole day, a whole hour for us just to be with us today. Thank you so much. I don't know if I have any other words to actually say. Yeah?
No problem.
All right. We'll be moving on to our next session, which will be the CV writing skills session. I'm not sure. Okay, Mr. Ntetha is already here. Mr. Sicelo, could you just raise your hand if
Hey, how is everyone doing?
Okay, we're fine. We're amazing. After that thrilling session with Bohlale, I think everybody's amped up for the next session.
Yeah, she actually done quite a good job. Seriously, it was quite informative, and it was quite detailed in terms of what to actually do and what to actually expect from an interview.
It was, and she looked stunning. Just to top it off, you know, when somebody does something with style, I mean.
yeah. I'm guessing she just showed that what you actually have to do in job kind of interview process, because you obviously have to look presentable, like how she was, and you obviously have to look the part as well. She really looked like a great recruiter who can be able to obviously spot talent. Thank you very much for the information that she shared with us, and it was quite informative. I'll even use it for my future purposes as well.
Amazing. All right, for those who don't know who Mr. Ntetha is, I'm just gonna there's his profile right there. Here's Mr. Ntetha. He's the founder of Ikololo Gold Africa and Kacoon Foundation. He has also worked as a part-time lecturer at one of the leading TVET colleges in KZN, which is Elangeni TVET College, and he has also worked at Blackpoint Developers, which is an IT software development company, as a managing partner. He has, listen everyone, he has over 24 years of work experience, amongst which he has served as an advisory board member, a chapter director, Kacoon Foundation founder, and facilities specialist. I mean, over 24 years. I'm not even 20 years yet. You started working way before I was even born.
I wish that was the case, unfortunately, but no, it's not 24 years experience. Probably was a typing error. It's probably just stating that from the age of 24, I'd started obviously advising, I'd say, DUT in terms of being able to create basically programs which are work related, which are industry related, because what we find nowadays is that the programs that are being taught in universities and UT colleges is not obviously industry specific what's needed in the world out there. That's the reason for the high employment rates that you find, obviously a trend going on, because now if you look at where the world is going in terms of work, you can see that most of the jobs that we have currently and most of the courses that we have currently in our universities and in our industries is obviously not going to be around in the next 5 years. So that's what we basically do.
Yeah, the fourth industrial revolution is really kicking in. Mr. Ntetha, take it away.
Okay. Can you be able to share the screen, please?
Yes, I've already started.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you're all well. After Bohlale's beautiful session and quite informative session as well, I'll just pick it up here. I would like to be just short, sweet, and precise, so we obviously all have our Saturdays with our families and friends. So we're basically going to start the session by just highlighting or just further expanding to what Bohlale has been obviously talking about earlier on. There's one remark. There was one question that came up in terms of that. How do you work it out when your personality or when you presented yourself as this person of a different nature to what you actually are at the interview? I like to add students that the most important thing is that try by all means to match your interview. Try by all means to match your CV to what you're going to be presenting to the people out there. So if you go to the next slide, we'll be able to see the topics that we'll be covering today.
Topics. All right. I'm already on the next slide. Topics.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What is a CV? That's the first topic. Who reads your CV? Formats and structure. What's in the CV? Then what do you do when you have no job experience? This starts with what is a CV? What is a CV? CV is actually an acronym for a Latin word called curriculum vitae, which basically means course of life. The CV basically is just a way of highlighting and detailing to people, future employers or current employers, of your current experience that you have on the job, or your current academic achievements that you might have, or current readings that you are obviously embarking in. And the nice thing about a CV, it actually gives you an opportunity to be able to be somewhat boastful of your achievements, of your scholarship, of your grants that you've got in the past, and the awards that you've got in high school or tertiary education. So it gives you a nice place to be able to be boastful and to actually brag about what you've achieved, but in a very cautious manner that you have to do that, because the words that you use on your CV actually represent you as a person. They actually show us what kind of person that you actually are. Okay. Then we move on to who actually reads a CV. From time to time, we find ourselves not actually knowing who to address the CV to.
Yeah, I'm already on that slide as well. Yeah.
Perfect. From time to time, we find ourselves not knowing who to address the CV to. So basically, we don't know what they kind of expect to be found on the CV and what they actually kind of looking for. So the first thing for you to actually do when you're actually writing a CV, is to see whose desk or whose office is going to land in. If it's a CEO, you're obviously going to write your CV in a different format, in a different way than you're going to be writing for a hiring manager or an administrator. So we're going to start with the hiring manager. The hiring manager, this person is a person who obviously requested your position. They're most likely to be your next boss. So your hiring manager is obviously looking for something in your CV that he wants to see you do perform on a day-to-day basis, because he's going to be faced with you every day. He's going to be obviously the one that you'll be working closely with. So there has to be some things that you can be able to show strength in, so you can be able to work with him. Then we move on to the recruiter. The recruiter, which in South Africa we call agents or agencies or recruitment agencies, are basically most likely large firms. They most likely work with large firms in terms of being able to recruit for them. For instance, an international company such as, let's probably pick one good name, such as Massmart. As much as Massmart has Walmart. As much as Walmart has a presence in South Africa, such as Massmart, but you'll find that they obviously outsource their recruitment. So in the sense that the hiring of the people that are going to be working in that certain position is obviously not made with conflict of interest, in the sense that we have people who are obviously working from the same organization as before, or who have some sort of lineage with the people that are currently working at that specific company or industry. And most of these recruiters are the ones who actually vet and actually ensure that the right applicants or the right CVs land on the company's desk. They're the ones who basically screen you. They're the ones who know what the company is actually looking for, the recruiter's looking for. They know what is actually needed, and they are the ones who have a lot of information regarding things such as salary, in terms of terms of contracts, in terms of how long you're going to be. And they are most of the time they are the gatekeepers. So if you're able to understand what they need and what they want, and being able to put a piece of paper, you'll be sure to be able to land yourself in an interview. Then we go on to HR professionals. I hope everyone's keeping up with me and I'm not too fast, eh?
Okay, can I just confirm, is everybody still seeing the first slide? Can you just write on the chat box, or is it still the first slide?
No, it's okay now.
It's okay now. Okay, cool. Okay, as you were, Mr. Ntetha.
Okay, thank you very much. The other one is an HR professional. HR professional is obviously a human resources professional. Most of them are obviously in administration positions, and they the ones who obviously ensure that the hiring of a new recruit in their company is actually done from start to finish. When we say from start to finish, basically the hiring manager goes into the HR professional's office and obviously states that I'm looking for a person to fill this sort of position. And after the hiring manager has outlined what they expect from the person, they that vacancy in that organization. And they're the ones who actually track your applications in terms of how far it is. So they're the ones who will be able to give you the best feedback in terms of after you have applied, obviously, best feedback of when you're expected to go for an interview, if you are going to go for an interview, and after you've gone for an interview, when can you expect further feedback from just for the days like Bohlale did mention earlier on. Then we go to the, is everyone still with me?
We are.
Pleasure. And then we go to the format and structure. What is in a CV? A CV, some people just view as a piece of paper or documentation that you just basically write. But if you look at it in a different sense, in terms of being able to advertise yourself, it's a different notion that you'll take in terms of what you actually write on the CV. The most important thing with your CV is that you have to be honest all the time. You have to be honest, and you can be playful with words. When I say honest, I'm saying that you can be able to kind of deliver a better message using different words for the recruiters obviously looking at your CV. You can be able to play with words, so you can be able to get the outcome expectations of obviously landing a job interview. We'll start off with the structure of it. The structure is basically at the top of your CV has to be your contact information. That's the most important thing. Your contact information will obviously include your full name, your address, your phone number, and your email address. That's the most important thing that has to be on the top of your CV, so that anytime a recruiter or an HR professional actually has it, it's the first thing that they see, and should they be able to make reference points, that we can be able to just flip to the first page every time. Then the second one is your academic history. This is where you list basically all your academic history from basically your high school level. please ensure that you don't put your preschool, your primary school level history over here. Just stick to high school level, because obviously high school certificates or high school leaving certificates, such as matric certificates, is obviously one of the most important qualifications to start off a person's academic history. So that's where you list it. You list that you've gotten your matric at X school, so you can be able to obviously further just show the history that from going from X high school, I went on to UKZN to study for X amount of years, in terms of my degree or masters that I've gotten from the university. So with that, the academic history, you ensure that you list even all your little certificates that you get on the side, even if it's certificates obviously of just attendance to a certain workshop or seminar. You can be able to list that if obviously those certificates are being distributed by the seminar host or obviously curator. So that's where you just list your history in terms of what you've been able to achieve. If you've been able to achieve a cum laude, you list that you were able to achieve a cum laude in X amount of years, and so on and so forth. Then we go to your professional experience. This is where your recruiter is going to see how you have been doing the things that you stated that you've been doing. How can I put this? Basically, the skills that you've gained from your academic experience or your academic history, how are you applying them to the current job that you have or the current job that you're doing? That's basically this. It's basically the roles that you have in the organization that you're working for. So if you're an administrator in an organization, you obviously going to be the one who's going to be running the day-to-day and administration of organization. That may be your stock controls and distribution of X materials, or whatever the case may be, or obviously a report writing or attending to clients' needs in terms of you being able to go out to a client's site visits and be able to actually conduct a report of what you actually saw on site, or being able to deliver on a client's request or a project of any nature, or basically just telling the recruiter that this is the roles that in the organization that you work in, this is the role that you fill out and this is the role that you fulfill on a day-to-day basis, day-to-day, weekly, not that last as a month. Okay, then we go to your qualifications and skills. Qualifications and skills, ladies and gentlemen, you list your academic, and you do obviously list your skills. When it comes to academic and skills, you find that some people see them as the same, and some people see them as two different things. A qualification is obviously your degree, your master's degree, but your skill is something different. You can get a skill from a qualification, and that is true, yes, but your skill is what you have sharpened. I.e., let's probably say, for instance, you are a master's graduate, and you have obviously you've been obviously awarded your master's degree. One of the skills that you have gained from your master's research, or you completing your master's degree, is obviously going to be in the form of research writing, and obviously report writing, so on and so forth. What I'm trying to highlight here is that, ladies and gents, is that basically what skill do you have? What can you do? Because your qualification is obviously an intended picture, or I would say a summary of what you are skilled in, but the question is, can you deliver it? So this is where you show your recruiter that from obviously the experience that I've gained through my academic history or my past job experiences, I've been able to do research. I've been able to do report writing. I've been able to do incident investigations. I've been able to do the list goes on. I've been able to obviously recruit clients. I've been able to recruit obviously I would say probably employees. So those are the skills that you gain, and those are the skills that you list when you ask for qualifications and skills. You do list your qualifications, yes indeed, but you list the skills of what you can do with your qualification. That has to be practical skills as well, because remember that they're going to ask you about these when you are being interviewed. Such as a perfect example would be is that, okay, here you state that you have a master's degree and you have obviously experience in researching a certain topic. They'll obviously ask you questions which are fundamental with a master's degree graduate, or a person who's obviously of master's degree stature, such as firstly, what was your sample size? What was your pool size in terms of your research base? And two, was it quantitative? Was it qualitative? The list goes on. So you have to list skills that you know for sure you can be able to answer questions of when you're being asked. Okay. Then another one is obviously awards and honors. Awards and honors is obviously going to be the award that you got, such as a merit, such as cum laude, or the Dean's Award, or your Golden Key Society. This is where you obviously list your awards and honors, and this is where you list such as being things such as being a guest speaker, or obviously being a guest speaker or guest lecturer in a certain topic or a certain industry or at a certain school. I hope everyone's still with me.
Yes, we're still here.
Yeah, we're still here. Should I move on to the next slide? The prototype of a current CVs and stuff?
Yes.
Okay, can everybody see it? Just give me a thumbs up or a yes on the chat box. We're on slide 6.
Mkhize,
yeah.
Can you do this, brother? You see the button at the top? Basically, the screen share, I wouldn't say screen share button, but where you can be able to flash the whole presentation. Yeah, can you just flash it just the full screen so people can see it properly?
Okay, cool. The thing is, I did that and we had a bit of a problem. Some were getting stuck on the previous slide instead of moving on with this.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I resorted to this one. Yeah. Okay, people are saying
no
yes, they can see everything now. Okay, it's totally okay. Yeah, as you were, Sicelo.
Okay, ladies, as you can see, this is a typical example of being an administrative assistant's CV, where you actually list everything. The perfect example of a one-pager, in terms of how you can be able to create a one-pager CV, so you can be able to catch everything and all the essence of what you do on just one page. As you can see, this candidate over here has listed everything, such as the skills or contact details, her education and awards on the left, and she's just listed her job experience and everything else on the right. Can we carry on to the next slide, please?
Okay. Yeah. Format and structure. What is in a CV? Already there.
Already there.
Yeah.
Okay. With the format and structure, and we'll continue from there. It's obviously a previous topic that we were talking about before, the example of the CV and how it looks. Basically, now we come to, again, further adding, because obviously I'm speaking to academics, so you guys will be able to understand in terms of being able to talk about publications and your articles and such. This is where you can list them. You can list your article, list a link to your article, in terms of what you wrote on the internet, or maybe a blog that obviously got a few likes on the internet, or obviously an article piece that was requested from you from a certain either company or industry specific related item or issue. So you list your presentations and your publications, and this is where you obviously list your topics, such as what you spoke about in your master's topic, or what you spoke about at a certain event that you're expected to obviously present in as a guest speaker. Then we go on to further down the line, we go on to professional associations. This is where you obviously show the caliber of how seriously you take your, I would say, your career, in a sense that obviously if you take your career seriously, you will be registered to the professional association that your career abides to. Such as for A perfect example will obviously be for probably educationals. Educators will obviously be in their own kind of association, which obviously bargains for them, which obviously states for them. This is, mind you, I'm not talking about unions, but I'm talking about basically an association which runs basically that kind of industry, the ones that obviously publish the research regarding the industry. A perfect example will be your such as facilities management. I'm obviously a facilities specialist, so I abide by everything that SAFMA does, and I'm a member of SAFMA. So that basically enlists me as one of their members. That makes me much more. That will make me seem much more professional, because that means that I'm part of a body of the people that make a decision in terms of what's new and what's next for the industry. So basically, what that means to your recruiter or employer is that you are kept up to breast of what's actually new in your industry. You know, so basically, you are updated in terms of what's new and what's old, and what's obviously going to change too. And this is where you listed in professional associations, basically stating that you're an active member. Then you can further highlight your grants and scholarships. Basically, this is where you state that you're either a Golden Keys society member, or you got an Dean's scholarship or grant. This is where basically you state the awards, some awards of merit in academia that you're able to achieve. Then continue to your license and certificates. License and certificates are basically licenses. Yes, you can list your driver's license if you have a driver's license, people. And your other license that they're actually speaking about here is basically license that you're able to use, such as one. Not many people know that Microsoft actually has a license in terms of you stating that you are a very professional Microsoft user. So Microsoft gives you some sort of certificate or license stating that this person is obviously I would say a very good Microsoft Office user, such as when you're talking about Microsoft Office, you're obviously talking about your Word, your PowerPoint, your Excel, your Access, and your Outlook as well. So you can list those kind of licenses, you can list those kind of certificates, even a computer course certificate, or even a public speaking certificates as well, even Toastmasters. This is where you can list the achievements that you've been able to achieve and what you've been able to gain in the past few years, which is obviously not qualification related, but just a skills development and certificates, which states what you can be able to do. Can we go on to the next slide, please?
Okay, yeah, I'm on it. We were running very much behind time, so if you can just, I'm so sorry to ask you to speed up, because we still have 10 minutes of Q&A, and we still have 20 more minutes with Pearl Rose and one other student. So I'm so sorry to ask you to speed up, but because of time, I'm just gonna, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Okay. The nice thing about it is that we actually have one more slide left. So if you can obviously, the next slide is obviously a CV, an example of a CV and how to write one up. And if we go on to the next slide, now we're talking about what to do when you have no previous job experience.
I'm already on that slide.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's quite important to show that you have some sort of initiative. You take initiative, because that's the one thing that an employer wants, is that a person that's able to be self-led, that takes initiative and that's able to risk. So with that, you can be able to show it in the roles that you obviously play outside the organization, and obviously roles that you don't get paid for, such as voluntary roles. Basically volunteering at your local clinic could be a form of volunteering, and volunteering at a local children's home is obviously a form of volunteering. That's basically what's that saying to your employer. It's saying to the employer, look, I'm not necessarily just waiting for a person to tell me what to do, but I can do stuff on my own. I can basically go after what I actually want. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, kind of thing. Or I've been able to take an opportunity that I've seen near me and be able to execute it without obviously expecting any pay. It basically paints the message to them that you're a person who who's obviously passionate about just working, not I wouldn't say irregardless of pay, but you're passionate about working. You want to put the work in and you want to see results. That's what basically this highlights out to your future employer in terms of your volunteer roles, you know. And like I stated, the community work with churches and corps, such as obviously community work in the church. If you are part of the youth in your church and you're probably secretary, you can be able to put that role down, you know. Stated that you've been part of your youth church secretary. You've been playing the role for quite a number of years, probably 3 years. That basically tells your employer that you are able to handle admin, you're able to compile reports, you're able to write down minutes. You know, it shows your employer, your future employer, of what you can do, irregardless of getting paid or not, you know. And your mentee and mentor relationship, what this highlights out is basically your ability to be led. You know, I know that I did state earlier on earlier on this topic that what you can do without being led, but the mentor and mentee relationship highlights what you can do when you are led. Just basically states to the employer that these are my skills. I'm able to listen. I'm able to apply what's actually needed at the point in time. I'm able to get direction. I'm able to ask for direction from those ahead of me or those older than me or much more experienced than me. It shows that you're able to work with people who are older than you. You're able to listen to them. You're able to relate to them. You're able to work together. Yeah? Then obviously other roles such as your school-related roles. Your school-related roles will be something in the lines of being a tutor. That's a role of basically that you can play that's obviously related to school. Being a tutor will obviously highlight to your employer that, look, this person, besides obviously just studying this, he's obviously being able to teach it as well. That means you're able to not only study and regurgitate by writing in an exam, but you're able to teach someone something. So basically that means you've mastered the skill, you've mastered the topic that's being talked about, because one is only able to teach something once they've really mastered it. And the greatest way of learning something new is by actually teaching it to someone else. That means you obviously are less prone to making mistakes. And it highlights a lot to your employer, obviously just firsthand, just by looking at a piece of paper that you presented to them, stating or talking about yourself. Ladies and gents, with that, I'd like to say, when you're writing your CV, be honest. Yes, you can brag. Yes, you can state your achievements, but be honest and show some humility in terms of writing your CV. Be humble, yes, but obviously not too humble. Be able to obviously write down what you're able to back up when you get into the interview presence. Be able to write things on your CV that you can be able to immediately answer on when you're being asked in the interview, because the CV is your gate pass, or should I say the CV is the key for you to be able to grab one's attention. Now the hammer, I would say the nail in the coffin is obviously the interview. So it has to match. It has to work hand in hand, and it has to show the same, if not a much more better presentation of what they saw on the CV and what they called you on. With that being said, thank you very much.
That was informative. Thank you very much, Mr. Sicelo. I'll be taking questions. Oh, Lindela is going to be, is it Lindela? Lindela is going to be doing this one. I'm not sure if she's still around. Let me just check for you. If Lindela is still around. Lindela is still around. I don't see her on the participants. Okay, I don't think she's still around. Okay, but that was very informative. I actually learned a lot. So what happens if, let me just ask a question before I go to the floor. If I'm part of a student political organization, whatever, I'm part of I don't wanna name them and stuff, but the red, the yellow and green and black, what if I'm part, can I also put that into the CV, or is it a no-go area?
Look, with that you have to research. You have to research the organization you're actually going for. Mm-hmm. Firstly, I'd like to state that. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. with that, it's very tricky. I'll be honest with you. It's very tricky in a sense that I would say with private organizations, not so much, because they're really not. They don't take into the liking of unions, because obviously I'm thinking it's school politics that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So when you relate to something such as school politics, they'll take in the sense that, okay, this person's obviously of a political nature, so they'll obviously try to fight us every moment and every chance that they get, as a collective or as
Yeah.
or by themselves. You know, yes, they have leadership stature, but we obviously might face a problem later on. You know, so not many private companies actually like that. You know, they don't actually like unions that much. You know, they try by all means to offset unions or not have them in their facility or organization at all, because they see them as a deterrent or a person holding back the authoritative nature of the private industry. But when it comes to public, you can be able to list that, because what I found to be likened to natural law is that many people many of the students, or many of the students who are part of school politics, you'll find that you still find them in your government institutions. That's where they thrive, because they've obviously learned how politics is and what politics is, and they're able to obviously go to the government I would say government sector and be able to apply those tactics and those strategies they're able to learn from school politics in the working environment of government. Because very much so, the work world is politics, and it's different of politics that obviously plays out. So you have to be able to play around which target markets you're actually trying to aim for in terms of putting such a, I would say, role or position.
I forgot to unmute myself. No, I totally get what you're saying. Nosipo and who else was it? Quena or someone, but they had their hands raised. I also see a question from Nobukai. I'm going to start with Nosipo because her hand has been up. Nosipo?
Hi, thank you, Stella, again for another informative session. My question is related to references. So what exactly is the correct number of references to put onto a CV? And do companies actually call the references? And if you so happen to they're unable to get a hold of that person that you've listed, what happens in that case? Does that mean that does it lessen your chances of getting into the interview, of being shortlisted for an interview?
Hello, Sipo. Thank you very much for your question. With references, I'm sorry I actually didn't highlight it further on in terms of my presentation. But with references, please be very careful, hey? Please be very careful in the sense and natures that don't put too many references. And secondly, the people that you put on a reference have to be able to speak about you, and they have to know about you. Very, I'd say, a very personal level or very deep level. And thirdly, try to make sure the people that you aim to put on your reference are of people that are obviously in a much more higher position. When I say higher position, such as your managers or a person who's in leadership position who can be able to vouch for you. So with references, I like to keep it at, I'd say, probably 3. You know, don't give them too many options, because remember that when you have too many options, that means there's too many people that see a different person or personality of you, or have a different version of you, and that can be able to speak the same song or be able to vouch for the same thing when they're speaking about you. So in essence, I for one don't personally put my friends down as my reference. Why is that so? Because my relationship with them is obviously on a friendship level. It's not really professional, so they cannot be able to answer many questions that might be asked that are of a professional nature regarding the position I'm applying for. And 2, family members. I don't put family members as well, because putting family members again, it's just basically showing that you only have people that are close to you that are able to reference you, talk to you about. I would say When I say when I think about family members and references, I'm thinking about basically someone who has a forced relationship with you. When someone has a forced relationship with you, they really, like it or not, they have to be a part of your life. Whereas opposed to when you're talking about the outside professional world, people such as a manager who has a relationship with you, is because of a professional nature that brought you guys closer together. And obviously, maybe a colleague, maybe be another leader in some organization, they have the relationship with you because you've shown some form of professionalism towards them, and you guys are working together towards something or same vision or same goal. So try by all means to put people who have professional experience, who are obviously in a professional environment, or who are in a leadership environment or leadership role that you've interacted with, and who are able to speak of you or about you in a very professional manner and be able to show that you have skills when they speak about you, so they can be able to vouch for you that you've been able to complete a project with them. You've been able to successfully implement something new with them and, have a story to tell about you, which is obviously professional, project related, and has obviously a start time and the end time, and obviously it desires results.
Okay, thank you so much. I also had another question, but someone has already asked it as well. I think so that just in the interest of time, is it also wise to, let's say I'm a bit overqualified for the job. So they're looking for someone who has a matric certificate or who has a bachelor's degree. And here I am with my PhD, but I'm in desperate need of employment. So what do I do in that situation? Do I omit the fact that I have a PhD, or do I throw it in?
Okay, that's very tricky. Yeah? I'll give you a classic example. I remember properly my first job. Was obviously of there was the minimum requirement was someone who had I'm not mistaken, a grade 10 or something, and obviously here I am, and I have a degree, and I was currently doing my honors at the time, so I'm basically way highly qualified for this position, but I put it in there. I put that in. The fact that you actually applied for the position basically states to the employer that one, you're aware of what to expect. It's basically by actually putting your qualification is basically highlighting that, look, besides what the person who has a matric can deliver, I can deliver much more because I have more value in terms of my skill set and in terms of what I can bring to the table. Basically, it's a big differentiator for you and that person. And it gives you an upper hand if obviously the employer is really looking for someone who can be able to, I would say, do more than one thing. Because remember that at times when it comes to qualifications, basically it restricts some people in terms of being able to learn certain topics and do certain different tasks and activities. At least the employer now knows that when they obviously have you at their helm, they can be able to rely on you when it comes to report writing because you have a PhD. They can be able to ask you to research on a certain topic because you have a PhD, because you have that relative research experience that they might need in the near future. It may not be now, yes, but probably in the near future, they might need that experience that you have.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Sicelo. I see Kwena has a question. She wrote it on the chat box. Kwena, is it possible that you unmute yourself so that you can just ask it directly? Because I'm afraid of trying to move it around and shift it around. It might not be what you wanted to ask precisely. So I would like it for you to better ask it yourself. Kwena? Okay, I think she's unable to unmute herself. Okay, let me just ask it. Okay, there's noise in my background. Sorry. Okay, cool. Okay, so Sicelo, she asked that. She said you mentioned, referring to you, Sicelo, on the qualifications and skills part, that when I have a master's degree, I can add research skill on the skills category. So I want to know. She wants to know for her 4-year bachelor degree equivalent to honors degree, can she add? can she add the equivalent part so that she can add the skills research, or do they know that it is equivalent to an honors degree, and will believe that it is true, I have research skills. So what she's merely asking is that some degrees, undergraduate degrees, are 4 years and they're equivalent to an honors degree, because in honors you do some sort of like research and stuff. So since it's a 4-year degree and it's equivalent to honors, there was research involved. Can she put it down as she has research skills and stuff? Can she do that the way in which she can do with her masters?
Yes, she can. Yes, she can. With that though, she has to be able to back it up, but obviously knowing and being cognizant of the fundamentals of research. Basically, you have to know the basics of research for you to be able to put such a skill down. Because if you don't know much about research and how to conduct research and what's required in research, you won't be able to put that down as something that you have a skill in. Because if the person obviously asks you in terms of your sample size and you're not able to answer, if they're able to ask you in terms of what kind of method did you use in terms of researching, and you're not able to answer, you obviously state and show that you don't have the necessary skill that you just stated that you have, that obviously a researcher will have because they've been exposed to doing such.
Okay. Nompilo, thank you very much for your response. I hope you answered. Gwena, you can just indicate on the chat box or give a thumbs up if you've been answered. Nompilo had also raised her hand. I'm not sure if she's still here with us. Nompilo, was it Nompilo or Nokanya? I can't remember precisely. But it was Nompilo Dlamini. Nompilo, are you able to unmute yourself? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Nompilo. We can hear you.
I have a question. Is there any difference between a CV for a job and a CV for a bursaries? If there is any, what is the fundamental difference?
Hello?
Yes.
You got the question?
There is a difference between a CV for a job and a CV for a bursary. With the CV for a job, you're obviously looking for employment. That's the main factor. And the CV is basically focusing on the skills that you probably have. And the CV for a bursary is obviously you stating you looking for a certain skill. So basically, with the CV for a bursary, it's better for you to highlight obviously what you want to gain and what you're going to do with the skill in the near future. And obviously what you've been researching about that specific skill that you looking to get a bursary from or qualification from, but you basically try to lure in the recipient of the application for the bursary into I wouldn't say make them believe, but obviously try to highlight the fact that your person is obviously looking to gain more knowledge and more skill, and you'd like to obviously apply this at your employment places if it is with them after you've obviously completed your qualification and your CV contract is up. Some organizations do offer employment and some don't, but with those that do, you obviously would like to highlight in terms of how you be able to, I would say, implement what you learned from this said bursary or qualification into the organization, and that might be able to assist and change the organization. That you gain obviously through researching the organization, one, and two, through researching your field in the next few years in terms of how far it's going to be and where it's actually going. And that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Another question. Is it wrong to write a 2 to 3 pages CV?
No, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong at all. But remember, the one that grabs the most attention from the first page is the one that wins. I'm gonna ask you a very basic question. You search for something on Google, and do you ever go to the second page? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Oh, Numbilo, I'm so sorry. I muted myself. Yeah. I think I'm just going to answer on her behalf and say I don't go to the second page. Whenever I Google
don't
search.
go to the second page.
Yeah, it's always the first page, never the second page.
Exactly. That's the same thing with your CV as well. Try compress as much information as you can on your first page, because that's the first page that's supposed to get their attention. That's the only time that you have. Remember that you have around about like 15 seconds to catch their attention. So the first 15 seconds obviously spent a person through browsing through the page. The browse through the page, the first thing they see is a name and your surname. And another thing I like to highlight is basically your email address. Your email address must not be some funny name. It must be basically your name, your basic name and surname. You know, name and surname and whatever, or name, surname, and a certain number, because obviously you can't find name and surname of your own, just alone by itself. But whatever it is, try to keep it professional as much as you can. And basically, that's what they look for. First 15 seconds is spent on that, browsing through the first page, which has your contact details at the top, your academic history, and your past work experience, and your skills. You know, obviously later on, the second page might have things such as your references and obviously your hobbies and interests, which people, not many recruiters, look to nowadays.
Okay. Numbilo, I trust that you answered. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, cool. Still, by the way, also Google Form questions. There's about 14. If you can see, I showed them on the screen right now. But I'll take the two that I highlighted. Yeah, because of the interest of time and stuff. Yeah. So the first one is, what is the difference between the motivational letter and cover letter, and how do you know which one to use between the two? If you can just answer that in a very sweet and short way.
Okay.
Oh, there was somebody saying something in the background. Yeah, so I think it was an error. Yeah. As you were, Taylor, sorry.
Okay. Basically, motivational and a cover letter, there's not much of a difference between it. Motivational letter does the same job as a cover letter. It's basically a summary of who you are and where you want to go and what you want to achieve. With the motivational cover letter, you're able basically to highlight the skills that you've been able to gain through your journey. The cover letter or motivational letter, mind you, that has to be journey specific. When I'm saying journey specific, it basically has to show that you are on a journey in terms of being able to abreast yourself much more in this field, stating that that's probably for hypothetical examples is that you are probably a chemical engineer, whatever the case may be, and you're like, okay, I worked for Geochem for my 5 years experience, and I've obviously gained this and this, but obviously you're probably applying for a job at Sicelo, and you're like, I would like to obviously apply for this job at Sicelo because of you guys are the leader in obviously petrochemical products. So basically, you're just stating your vision and what you like to achieve with the current role that's obviously vacant, and what you like to achieve with the skills that you have and in the industry.
Okay, totally. Yeah, I hear you. So how do you know which one to use between the two? Is it when the post says, yeah? Sorry, I'm so sorry to cut your tongue.
Yeah, no problem. It's basically determined in the post, but I'll be honest with you, it's exactly the same thing. It's basically a summary of the person that you are. It's you basically telling me what kind of person you are.
Okay. One last question is, can you download your profile from LinkedIn and use it as a resume or a CV where you're applying? Can you do that, or is it a no-no?
You can do that. No, seriously, you can do that, because remember that LinkedIn is a very good reference point in terms of your history. You know, it's a trusted source in terms of professionals and academics and industry professionals. And remember that when you put something on LinkedIn, I'm sure you wouldn't put something that's a lie on LinkedIn. So it adds a sense of trustworthiness to it. But you obviously have to back it up at the end of the day. You have to be able to show your reference point of what you're talking about. If you're stating that you work for X company for X amount of years, you obviously have to have some form of reference stating that here's a company reference that I work for, the person that I worked for or reported to. Basically, you have to have reference and backup for everything that you state on your resume. That's either on LinkedIn or on your CV.
Okay. Just one last question before we let Pelrose come through. I found this question to be very interesting considering the fourth industrial revolution and everything. The question is it true that CVs are now looked at by robots or machines using algorithms which look for certain keywords? I don't know for certain keywords what.
Yes.
It's true.
Yes.
So it's no longer
true,
human-based and
it's
people
not,
sit in?
Not necessarily it's no longer human beings or 10 people sitting in looking at CVs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually quite true because remember again, you have to put on your CV the keywords that they're actually looking for. The keywords and the outputs that they're actually looking for the position. The job specification tells you what the person that they're looking for. So it tells you what kind of person they're looking for, what kind of skills they're looking from the person. And if you don't have the same job, if you don't have the similar kind of I would say job experience or similar kind of words being used on the job spec and on your CV, you stand a chance of obviously not being shortlisted. That's basically true because yes, they do scan for words. Like I did state that it takes 15 seconds. That 15 seconds, the person just basically scanning for each specific words, in terms of this word, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for. Same thing with algorithms and robots. They basically scan for the word because remember that it's a document that you're sending to a person. So a robot is easily able to just scan through and look just for those specific keywords that you obviously have listed on your CV. Such as for probably a financial manager. They're obviously stating that this financial manager has to be very experienced when it comes to asset management, procurement, or whatever the case may be. And if you don't have those words on your CV, or if you don't have that kind of experience, you don't stand. Not that I'm saying you don't stand a chance of being shortlisted, but the chance of being shortlisted will be slim.
That's hectic. That's rough.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a mind blower right there.
Yeah, man. It's really, really moving to the fourth industrial revolution, and we have to really press it, man. It's here to make our lives easier, not harder. So we just have to really take it with both arms.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sicelo, for your time. You've been of great help. I've gained a lot from this, especially the last question that I just asked from Google Forms. It was really eye-opening and stuff. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day ahead of you today and have a very beautiful weekend.
You too, ladies and gents. Take care.
Thank you. Right. We are way behind time. Ladies and gentlemen, we are way we're not really behind time. Yeah, we are because there's still Pelrose. Pearl, hi, how are you? You can unmute yourself.
Hi everyone.
It's been long.
Hi everyone.
Hi Pearl. It's been almost 2 hours.
Yeah, so thank you everyone. I mean, from Ms. Paile, how do you say Paile?
Paile, it's a
Paile.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to now to Sicelo. I mean, from the things that I'm gonna say, guys, I'll try to be short as possible because they've covered everything. So I'm just going to come in as a student part. So I don't know, you can introduce me and then I get cracking. So I'm a data doesn't thingy.
Hey. Data, hey. Okay, I'm still looking for your bio. So I just caught up with Sicelo and everything that he was saying. So for people that don't know who Pelrose is, Pelrose Mkhize is a Master of Social Sciences student in Criminology and Forensic Science. Sciences Investigation. She is an entrepreneur. She owns 2 companies, namely K2K Talent Development Project and Donne Forte Industries. She is an artist manager through her talent company and develops talent of young people in rural areas. Through her Donne Forte company, which is Italian for strong women, she has a perfume parlor division and a Donne Forte Dine division, which is on campus, to name a few. She has 10 years worth of work experience, 6 years self-employed, halala, and 4 years as an employee. She is a tutor and was awarded a Best Tutors Award at UKZN. She is a mentor in her local area and at Young Academics Society. I mean, that bio alone speaks volumes for you. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I really can't.
Thank you for having me, everyone.
Yeah, over to you.
I just want to greet. I'd like to greet all protocol. Yeah. Thank you for having me once again. Just to touch base on things that I'll be referring back to what the fellow spokespeople have just said, or our guest speakers have said. The 3 things that I'm going to be highlighting is basically student experience with interviews and CV writing session. Then I'll be also going into my 6 years as an employer, and as well as a person part of student organizations, how many that I've been in and what's so not. Okay. First point, students' experience with interviews and CV sessions. First of all, as a student, when you walk into the university sector, I know you're coming from a different background. It's a whole new ball game, a whole new world, and you don't know what you're going to come into. First of all, who do I want to be? What do I want to be? Choose your career path very carefully. Don't walk in and just choose any module with no structure. That is the first mistake that as students do. We come from our rural backgrounds, we come from our different backgrounds, we walk in, I don't know who I want to be. You're in matric, start thinking. Grade 11, start thinking, and by the time you start applying to be part of any university or any institution, you know exactly who and what you want to be. So that is going to help you when the mentors come in and help you register, then you know exactly which modules that you're going to register for your degree. For instance, let's say I initially wanted to be a forensics psychologist. So what would I choose? I'll choose criminology. I'd major in criminology and psychology. So all the modules that are in line or aligned with forensic psychology. I can't be going now and choosing anthropology. So what is anthropology going to help me at that particular time when I'm going to pursue my career? So these things that are going to be wasting your time or wasting your energy to become successful in your profession. So try choose the right modules and structure your modules correctly. I see that all the time as I'm a tutor, and you find that students, they realize in the second year, and now they're taking on modules that they were supposed to do in their first year, in their second year, or realize in their third year that what on earth am I doing? So try and make a choice, the right choice of selecting the right modules as a student for your respective careers. And then also, when you are given tasks like group work, you're given group assignments, take that into cognizance, because all of that is applying to who you are and what you are as a character. You learn to work with people, you learn to be led and to lead, because you're going to be a group leader, you're going to be part of a group, different people with different attitudes, different personalities. Now that is projected within your work experience, within your work environment. When you go out now into your work, into the working industry, it shows, it's projected. If you can't tolerate other people, work with other people, these are skills that you learn as an individual during your time in university. So you utilize the space to actually equip yourself accordingly. I know students have got this, snake group work. That attitude, leave it, because it's helping you. It's vitally important for you to really grasp that opportunity and do the task that you are given. Because if you can perform correctly at doing those tasks, then you can do it during your work experience. And also put into account that I think Sicelo and Ntetha touched on this. Part service, do community services, all of that, it all adds up, because you find that with your applications, they're looking for 2 years work experience, 3 years work experience. Now you tell me, with your 3-year degree, when are you going to get that work experience? So you do it now. Do it during your undergrad years. Go and volunteer. And if I am a forensic psychologist, I go to rehabilitation centers. If you are doing social work, where would you go? Old age home, orphanages. Do that now. Those reports, those references, you're accumulating the right references. Get involved in organizations. That tells a story about you, that you were not lazy. You did not just attend your degrees and just walk out. You did something. You learned communication skills, interrelated skills, so that it shows power. It flourishes your CV as an individual. So you try to walk in to your career path as you gradually go, because you will be learning. As Sicelo said, that when they pull out your CV, it's an advert. It's showing who you are. So if you have some richness in it, then people will see that you are worthy for that position. You are worthy to come into that company, and you will make a difference because you have certain experiences within your career. You're a person that works hard. You can't be saying as part of your skills and part of your personality that you're a determined and enthusiastic person when all you have is your transcript, your academic record, or you have your certificates of merit. That's all you have. There's no other things that you did within your 3 years. So you have to show that determination. You have to show that enthusiasm. You've traveled the world. You've been a foreign exchange student. Things, all that builds up. And then you find people are thinking, how, at 25, this person has done so many things. Oh, this person, you can do it yourself. Be involved. Be involved with things within society, things in your neighborhood. There are programs, rehabilitation programs, counseling programs. Be involved. That all adds up to dolly yourself and make yourself somebody that's significant and that's worthwhile in any business sector. So to touch base on your personality as well, that you must learn to be honest. Be honest about who you are. Like, for instance, like for me, when I went to interviews, I walk in there with confidence. I just tell myself one thing: look, if they make that decision to call me for an interview, I'm walking out with that job. And I tell you, every time, if I'm called for an interview, I've never failed an interview, except for one, because of my silver tooth. Or they didn't even interview me. I just got there, and oh, okay, you have a silver tooth. Sorry, we can no longer carry on with the interview. That was that. But every time when I go in for an interview, I always get the job because I'm confident. I walk in there, posture's right, your broad shoulders, and you as if you know these people and you're on top of the game. You know what you're going to talk about. So that too kind of like intimidates the interviewer. It's like, okay, this one, she knows what she's doing, okay? And then your handshake, it's important. You have a grip on that person's hand and show that I know, because that all it all adds up. I know my story. I'm confident. Whatever question you're going to be asking me, I know my story. If you have a soft hand and you're shaking, you see, it also, it's like, okay, it sends different messages to the interviewer. When you sit down, you pull your chair, confidently sit down, and you sit like an order. If you're a woman, you sit with your posture elegantly, and you look, eye contact, body language is important, how you project yourself, manners, all of that, it all adds up. So try in every way, the way you present yourself, your hairstyle. Don't be, as ladies, don't wear skimpy things, too short skirts, on your knees, straight, ironed. No, I don't like ironing. I'm very lazy when it comes to ironing. I love the washing part, but the ironing part, but at that particular time, if there's a crease, I have to make sure that the crease is straight. And always, just to add on what Bohlale said about colors, always have a white shirt in your wardrobe, because white, the cleanliness of white, that brightness of white, it shows something neutral, something rewarding, something peaceful, something elegant about you, something clean, sincere. So you always have to, each and every one of us must have at least that white shirt and wear it with black. And that brings out so much more. Your hair is tied up neatly. If you're a guy, you're well shaved, not a bushy beard. You're well shaved and you're looking smart. Shoes polished, no sneakers. I can't reiterate every single thing that my fellow guest speakers have said, but basically that, represent yourself, have a beautiful scent, because that as well, like it will be an icebreaker. Oh, you're smelling good. Wow, you're smelling fresh. What is that? Oh, yes. Oh, that's Lady Million. Wow. Okay. Or some other scent you follow. So that shows that you like yourself as an individual as well. So you smell good, you look fresh, and it also tells the interviewer something about your character. So these are things that will tick on the boxes before you are intimidated by the questions that are going to be posed. So already you got the panelists smiling and already liking your character. Have a good energy. The energy that you walk in with, it also accounts, because we went to, my artist and I went to this eThekwini virtual concert last weekend, which is currently viewing, and I'm not watching it. It's on channel 261. One of my artists is performing. We went there, and when we got there, everyone was like, yo, you guys have got such a different energy. Wow, now we're feeling like we're working. Gee, guys, you guys are so live. Like, they started putting makeup on us and everything, and we're busy rehearsing there, dancing and doing voice practices and everything. And it's like, wow, guys, we love your energy. And I started getting contacts with other producers and other artist managers and other record labels because of the energy. They're like, gee, you're a woman. For starters, I'm a woman and who is managing artists and in the music and entertainment industry. Wow, as a woman, the confidence. Girl, how do you do it? You understand? It's because of the way I projected myself. Sometimes you just have to act as if you know everything, just for people to like. People just want to be connected with people that are lively. So try be lively as possible. In order for you to also be able to work, that works into your advantage, and you're able to network with people, learn so many things from people. So I'm not going to go on with writing the CV, because, oh my gosh, Sicelo has gone deeper than what I knew. He said it all. And guys, I just wish we can get his slideshow, and so we all can grasp that. But just to add on just a little bit, it's just that it's not necessarily about 10 pages or 15 pages. You can write 15 pages or 10 pages of nonsensical things. So it's not necessary. So 2 pages, 1 page, as long as it's concise, that's what's important. You sell yourself. It's like you tell yourself, if I was given 20 seconds in a lift with somebody to change my life, what would I say? So you think like that. We don't have time as employers. We don't have time to go and read 10 million pages. We just want the important parts: who you are, what you are, and what have you done. Do you have a criminal record? Are you healthy? Are you fit for the job, etc., etc., etc. So you do your research. Do your research. As much as you can. If you're going to a media company, dress the part. Understand your role. That's what Bohlale has told you, guys. I cannot stress any further. But on the student's perspective, just ensure that you choose the correct modules. Be in line with your career at an early stage. Ask questions. If you are really interested in becoming a social worker, mingle with people that are within your career. If you want to be a biopharmacist or something, be in line with the people in your career. If you want to be an accountant, be in line with those people, network with those people, because you learn so much more. So by the time you go to interviews, it's very easy for you to run into who you are and what you are and what you're supposed to be. And the other thing that we as students usually make mistakes on is that your social pages. You don't realize how important they are when you are going for applying for a job, because sometimes they screen you. Most of the time they screen you. They want to see who you are. That also adds up to your personality. You can't be contradicting your CV and writing that I'm a churchgoer, and on the other side, on your Facebook, you're always partying and there's booze everywhere. So it's like, okay, churchgoer, and that contradicting your personality. So be truthful, be honest at all times. So these things, you may not realize it, but your Instagrams, your Facebooks, your Twitters, they all add up. Scouting at who you are. Sometimes you can get jobs brought to you that you don't even have to look for. Like, for instance, I was called up once all that stuff, and being a radio personality a while back, and then they call me, like this voiceover company calls me, "Hi Pearl, we'd like you to come in for an audition." I'm like, "Audition? Yes, this communication da 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 da," and I'm like, "Really? Yes, we want to give you a position of being a voiceover artist." I'm like, "For real?" Like, yes. And then I'm going there because they see what I portray and what I've got in my social handles. So I got the job. So you see, it's the way you handle yourself. Sometimes a job will come to you. Sometimes a job, you have to seek for it. And like with the government, I know it's difficult. You guys were asking questions like, how much information do you put on your CV? Like, do I have to put my master's degree, my PhD, when I'm applying for a position being a police or something? That is a tricky question as well, because you find that you don't put those informations, but they screen you and they find it, and it's like, as if you're lying. But then in the same breath, the person that's interviewing you does not have that that education qualification. The sad truth about society or about government positions in South Africa, please don't shoot me if you're part of the ANC or any political party, but it is the sad truth, guys, that you find that the people that are in positions are not fit or qualified for being in those positions. So now you are coming here with your master's, fully experienced. You're coming here with your PhD. This person has only got grade 12. So what do? You're scared. You're looking for a job. There's no employment in South Africa at this moment. So what do? It's a gamble. I would say it's a gamble. And also with the government posts, you find that there are what you call forms that you fill out in order to apply for those positions. Those Z83s, I think, ZN83s. ensure that you fill them in correctly. Read, ask people that have been in the game, police officers, ask them to help you fill these forms. Because I found that when I was applying once, it was just a little tiny little scratch out this, dot this, put that, initial this. I didn't know that, and I've been applying for so many years and I haven't been caught. It's just silly things. They don't have time to look through these forms, and they'll find the smallest little thing to check your application in the dustbin. So learn these tricks of the trade, and just try and do it correctly. Ask questions, ask people to help you. And also another thing that you guys should make sure that in your early years of tertiary or undergrad years, go do your driver's license, do your learners, set goals, focus. Just know that, okay, I'm getting this first. How am I going to divide my NSFAS? Okay, I know some of us is hard, and you're taking your NSFAS and you're looking after your breadwinner to your family with your NSFAS, or you have a child, or you the only parents, or you're an orphanage or whatever, and you have so many responsibilities with your NSFAS. But program yourself, set goals for yourself, and say to yourself, okay, what should I do? Let me get my drivers, let me do my learners this year. This year, or the first 6 months, let me do my learners. You know that I'm going to have NSFAS for 9 months. I'm going to have NSFAS for 10 months. What am I going to do? Break it down easily. Sit down and have a plan. Have a plan for your life. You're changing from being a child to being an adult. So now know to do your life accordingly. Try and break those family curses that have been hounding that you don't become successful. You break it. Break those family curses. Focus. Get there and say, no, I'm not going to live in the boondoos. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to liberate my family from this. What must I do? I'm going to do my learners this year. Next year, I'm going to save up and do my drivers. And by graduation, I'll be able to even buy a car. It's possible. Or my honors, I'll be able to buy a car. It is possible, but you have to be focused. Focus on yourself. Focus. And then that, when you attend, let's say, you enrolled at UKZN in 2015. 2015, you got your learners. 2016, you got your driver's license. So already you've got 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. That's 5 years driving experience according to the time you got your license. So when you're doing your application, you're writing and you've written that you have a driver's license, and then they're asking you, how many years experience? You're saying 5 years. So if you get okay, they will be confident in giving you a car. Now, if you're walking in there and you're like, oh, I've got a learners, oh, I've just got my driver's license. Are people going to gamble with their cars? No. So put that all into consideration. As a student, program yourself, structure yourself, focus on your future, and try get things accordingly. Get all these nitty-gritty things I say out of the way at an early stage, so you know by the time you are going for work experience or going for interviews, you've got all the good stuff attained, and it's also flourishing your CV, and it's showing that you are focused. And employers are like, oh my gosh, you're 21 and you've really got this. You see, that's showing that this person is progressive in life. So all of that, it all adds up. You may think it's not worthy, but it is. And then to go to point 2, my 6 years as an employer, it's very challenging to be an employer at times, because people, when you are like recruiting people, I'm a person that wants to help people. I want to give people opportunities, but people have got different attitudes. Walk into a working environment and people cannot tolerate other people, and people cannot differentiate that today. Okay, I know I'm going through hormonal difficulties or challenges, or someone has passed on in my family. They're invited into the working environment, and they're fighting with everyone and throwing everything, the toys out of the box. learn when you go into a working environment that you leave your personal things at home. You wear another overall that I'm at work now. I'm employed by Donne Forte Industries, and I have to fill in the task. If I'm not well, go to the respective manager and derive what's the problem and let them help you in, and then instead of you fighting with everyone, because that also shows a sense of respect, that you as an individual respect yourself and respect the other people's environment. It's not everybody that stole your 10,000 Rand out of your wallet or burnt your favorite shirt. It's not everyone, so you can't bring it to work. So you just have to know how to differentiate the two. Your personal feelings, try reserve them at all times. And as my 6 years as an employer, you have to keep the company going. It's so difficult because, as I say, you expect people to help you, expect people to be you. You employ people that have similar characteristics to you, but then people fail you. And then you're finding yourself doing the jobs that you ask people to do for you. It's very difficult. So you can't be a frustrating employee that constantly has to be spoon-fed. If you say you learn, you're very quick, you're a quick learner, you've stipulated that in your CV, be a quick learner, be innovative. You're coming with something new into the company. Like myself, when I'm as a tutor, I'm not shy to say, no, I don't understand and I don't think this will work. I've been called to a meeting. It was so easy for me to lose my job. I was the only one who was standing for the truth. I was for the students. I've been called, the SOC, a huge meeting, and the lecturer didn't understand. It was as if I was against the lecture and everything. I just stood there. I stood there for the truth. My colleagues, they stood back and said, we're not getting involved. We're not going to lose our jobs. But I stood there on my own. Sometimes you do have to stand for the truth, and then sometimes you gain respect for that because you're standing up for the truth. Be honest at all times. Like as we're having these virtual communications and we're going online learning, I told the lecturer I'm having difficulties with my phone. I can't work. I'm having technical glitches. My laptop is packed up on me. I haven't done anything. I haven't taught anyone anything. I'm still waiting for my sister to buy me a new phone. I was honest. I texted her at the side. She was like, oh, wow, thank you for your honesty. You do things like that. If it was someone, maybe they were going to keep quiet and get away with it. What if it catches up with you? What if one of the students that you're tutoring goes behind your back and say, oh, our tutor said nothing's been silent and has done nothing with us, and you haven't reported it, and then it's something else. It backfires. So everything you do, you must be very honest at all times. Honesty, even if, I don't know, even if you accidentally took 10 Rand from the till and you realize that you just put it there, just be honest, be honest at all times.
Yeah. Paul, I'm just going to have to ask you to just wrap it up 1 minute, because we're now going to 4 and this started at 1:30. So people's data and time and everything, so I'm just going to ask you, I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm just going to ask you just 1 minute, wrap it up, and then the chairperson will do the closing, and then that'll be it for the event.
Okay. Okay, just to wrap up everything, be part of students' organizations. I can't stress it any further. Just be part of it. The positions that you're given, be part of student organizations, and do the roles that you are given, because that all adds up to your resume. And about references, guys, it's important to write the right people's reference, because I had an experience when I was going to look for property. The property manager got a call from one of the companies because one of his employees that had left the company was looking for a job. So the lady phoned and, do you know so and so? Yes, I do know so and so. So why did he leave the company? And he had to be honest. And she's like, and he says, no, don't not give him the opportunity. He's a da 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 da. So the person's giving up good qualities about him. It was just a misfortune because it was ladies who are managing the company and just the conflicts of interest, da da da. But he still got the job. You follow. So just make sure that you choose the right people to be your references. And guys, no, look. Yeah, it is a wrap. I just hope whatever I said, it will help you. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pearl. That was beautiful. I don't know if I can reiterate the point that you've already stressed already. The point about joining student organizations and everything, gaining and upskilling yourself in many different ways. It is very important. I'm like part of 5 or 6 organizations, student organizations, and on top of that, there's schoolwork. There's a lot of things. So because I want to gain those different skills and stuff, I think I've gained quite a number. So as if you already mentioned, it's very important, especially if you're in the humanities and everything, where job opportunities post your undergrad are very scarce and everything. Right, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I think that was really beautiful.
I'm looking at your PowerPoint here. You say the last question is, what is your best advice for job seekers and people that want to start their own businesses? Not all of us are going to be employed. Some of us are going to employ. So make sure that when you study, you create job opportunities for yourself. So find the gap. As researchers, you find the gap. Maybe you are the next person that could cure us from COVID-19. So you always find the gap. If you are doing IT, you find the devices, you create new devices. So be innovative all the time. Yeah.
That was beautiful. So to all the people that want to be entrepreneurs one day, like Pearl, hashtag find the gap, find that one thing that's missing, that could be, as you said, some antidotes to fight a particular disease or virus or whatever. It could be anything, but just find that missing thing and work on it, build yourself, and find opportunities through what you're studying as it is. Pearl, you've been amazing. What you've said has been beautiful. I'm just speechless. Today has been one of the most beautiful days ever. I think I learned a lot. From my side, I learned a lot. We're supposed to have what do you call this? We're supposed to have an open mic session where Mlungisi, I think, Mlungisi. It's on the screen. Mlungisi was going to conduct an open mic session where people get to share what they've learned thus far with the whole event and everything. But due to time, I don't know, because there's only like 12 of us now. I could take 1 or 2 people that want to say something. I can see that the chat box is booming. If you want to say something, if you want to say something, the stage is yours for the next 2 to 3 minutes. Anyone? If there's no one, then I'll move on to September. Anyone?
There's an evaluation form.
Okay, there's also an evaluation form, right? There's also I think there was an angel whispering in my ear. Somebody said evaluation form. Somebody has already written it, Nyamo. There's also an evaluation form to fill in. Let me just, okay, I'm screen sharing, I forgot. Let me just try and get it. Meanwhile, I tried to get the form. Siatemba, could you do the honors of actually closing everything, wrapping everything up? Siatemba, Mr. Chair, are you still there?
I'm still here, Mkhize.
Right. So I don't know, do you also need like a formal introduction, postgraduate student doing his honors?
No.
Right, no idea.
I'll do the honors myself.
Right.
Hi guys, so I am Siatemba Ngosi, the current chairperson of Young Academic Society. So I'll be doing the closing for you today.
So first of all, I would like to thank all the people that facilitated and ensured that the event is a success. And these include Lindelwa for the prayer, Samgele Zungu for welcoming us, Mr. Andile Mnyandu for the icebreaker, and our official speakers for the day, Miss Bohlale, Mr. Ntetha, and also and also Miss Paile Rose Mkhize. I think the primary thing that I took away from this event is that in cases where you are given an opportunity to present yourself to a potential employer, I think it's honesty, confidence, involvement, and professionalism. Those are the 4 key points that I've learned from partaking in this Zoom session or a webinar. So in Ms. Paile's webinar and presentation, the most relevant input that she gave was of the virtual interviews that we've had to, we're quite forced actually to do virtual interviews because of the time we find ourselves in. So ensuring that the background is quiet and ensuring that you log in 10 minutes before to ensure that you have proper connection. You need to dress professionally, even if you are still at home, but you need to still be presentable and look serious for the interview. You do not move around. Those are the type of things that we've taken for granted, so much so that if I feel that I'm in my own comfortable space and I'm gonna be interacting with the person virtually, then I need not take those things personally, professionally rather. That is quite a big fault that I was kind of committing myself, but I've learned. In Mr. Ntetha's presentation, he explained the whole analogy of what is a qualification and what is a skill, and that for me was eye-opening because I really didn't know what the difference is between the two. And today I've learned that you may get a qualification, but the skill may be lacking. So I think that is very insightful. In Ms. Paile Rose's Mkhize's presentation, I was able to grasp the essence of social media and how it impacts on whether you are hired or not, and the picture that you're depicting to your potential employer. You may actually be a very bubbly person, and then we find that on social media, you're not that person who has depicted themselves as somebody who's bubbly, somebody who's outgoing, somebody who likes meeting people, but on social media, it's a totally different thing. So that those are the kind of contradictions that potential employers may look to in disqualifying employees. Remember that there's a pool of people who applied for the job, and there's a pool of skills that people bring to a job and bring to an interview, and the potential employer sees those and tries to weigh the benefits and the costs. So those are the things that can make you break or make an interview. So yeah, I hope that everybody has learned a lot, just as I did, and has taken quite a few points in the presentations that were made today. And I hope that everybody enjoyed as much as we did also as the organizing committee. So thank you so much, and thank you for taking your time to attend. I know it was quite a few hours longer than expected, but we really appreciate we really appreciate that you stuck with us, and you chose to put yourself first, and your advancement in both personally and professionally. So it's really it has not gone unnoticed. So thank you so much. Thank you to the chairperson, the current chairperson of the webinar, who has been doing a wonderful job in keeping us entertained and glued to our screens. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. that was man. I'm not really the type that gets speechless, but yeah, after that, I'm really speechless. I hope we're expecting some goodies, Ness. Yatemba, you know I love food. I'm not sure about everybody else, but the top 9 remaining people, I hope there are goodies coming our way, right? Okay, so there's an evaluation form. There's an evaluation form that you got. Let me just share screen that you will need to fill in. Here it is. Can everybody see it? I'm just gonna take a yes. I'm just gonna pretend as if y'all said yes. Here it is. It's the YAS event feedback. Thank you for participating in our event. We hope you had as much fun attending as we did organizing it. We want to hear your feedback so we can keep improving our logistics and content. Please fill this quick survey and let us know your thoughts. Your answers will be anonymous. Nosipa, would you like to take us through this quickly before you go to your students, or is Nosipa still here?
I'm still here. I don't think it's necessary to go through it, Mkhize. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of distributing it to the people who attended, and they'll fill it out in their own time. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gents. Yeah, you've yeah. It's been 2 hours. Let me just check the time. It's been 2 hours and 38 minutes on top. Almost 3 hours to be precise. Thank you very much for coming through. It was amazing. I learned a lot. I hope that everybody learned a lot. I guess we'll meet on the socials now on WhatsApp. We are going to LinkedIn. We are connecting. We are doing all those things now. You know, we're thinking more work and employment and everything from now on. Thank you very much. It was Paul. Thank you very much, Tia. I didn't see you when we were at the beginning of the session and everything, but I think at one Tia also with us. Tia is a member of the executive committee. Tia, can you just unmute yourself to say hi to everyone?
Hi,
Tia.
everyone.
I think I'm only going to be the only person who's going to respond. But
come on.
Hi, Tia.
All right. Thank you very much. Tia will be posting our very beautiful pictures during this webinar, and I can't wait to see them.
Yes.
I'll also be sharing the slides, the presentation, the PowerPoints, Bohlale's and Sicelo's. Yeah, so stay on the lookout on WhatsApp. Thank you very much, guys, for coming through. We've come to the end of our beautiful interview skills event. Yeah, y'all can leave now. I'm chasing y'all out. Y'all must go.
Finally, you
Bye,
did
everyone.
it. You did it. Bravo.
Hey. I didn't think I'd last this long. Bye. Thank you very much.
Wow,
also.
we did. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Nombilo and Sandile, bravo, guys. Yo, yeah, y'all stayed. Hey, y'all stayed. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Mkhize.
Bye. How do you end the recording again? How do I September, how do I end recording? Do I end meeting and then it ends recording? Okay, I've seen it.
Okay.
You're about to say you don't have any idea where you
yeah.